Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Danielle Schenk in the 1011 Now streaming studio. In just a few moments, the University of Nebraska will honor one of the most iconic figures in Husker Athletics with a statue dedication for legendary volleyball coach John Cook. The life-size bronze statue is part of a larger project approved by the University of Nebraska Board of Regents, which also adds Cook's name to the Bob Devaney Sports Center, now officially John Cook Arena, along with updated wayfinding, signage, and interior naming updates. This statue was created by nationally recognized Nebraska native George Lundeen. The donor-funded statue, valued at $400,000, celebrates Cook's remarkable career and lasting impact on Husker volleyball. The ceremony itself is happening on the north side of the Bob, near the bottom of the pedestrian ramp, and you can kind of see the view here as we get it up for you. It's a good thing we have Zoom on our cameras because we're a little bit of a ways back, but that's just where the media was put. So speakers lined up for tonight include University of Nebraska System President Dr. Jeffrey Gold, Athletic Director Troy Dannen, Nebraska Volleyball Head Coach Dani Busboom Kelly, and of course, Coach Cook himself. As many of you remember, Cook shocked Nebraska and the volleyball world back in January when he announced his retirement after 25 seasons with the Huskers and 32 years overall as a college head coach. But he hasn't stepped away from the sport he loves just yet. Just last month, Cook took on a new role with the Omaha Supernovas as co-owner and general manager, helping guide the team as they gear up for the 2026 season. Now it kind of looks here as everyone's getting in place for this dedication ceremony. We'll kind of just leave you with the scene here as they get ready, get some speakers in place, and Troy Dannen up to the podium.
I want to welcome everyone to coming today as we pay honor to the greatest volleyball coach in American history, John Cook, by formally naming the arena inside the Bob Devaney Center as John Cook Arena and unveiling this bronze of Coach Cook. In a very predictable way, it's rained all day, and the guy that designed an outdoor volleyball game made it stop a half an hour before we honored him. I want to thank John's family, Winnie in particular, for allowing John to give to us and to the sport of volleyball what you allowed. I mean, none of this happens unless you let it happen. So really, thank you very much. George, where did George go? George Lundeen is around here somewhere. There he is. I want to thank George. He is a sculptor, and he's renowned nationally, probably internationally, George. Really appreciate you, internationally, worldwide, intergalactically, every place. But I'm sure after we unveil this tonight, this will be considered your greatest work. So thank you, George. I must pay special thanks to Coach Dani and for the team for being here. They just got done with practice, but you know what you mean to John, and I know it means a lot to him for having you all here. And a lot of John's players, I think 30 or 40 former players were set to come tonight. So thank you very much for being Huskers, and thanks for coming to Sport Coach. Nebraska, the university, is very unique in that we name a lot of our facilities not for donors as much as we do for those who've impacted the sustained success we've had. We've got Barb Hibner, Francis Allen, Bob Devaney, Tom Osborne, and Coach, it's very appropriate tonight that your name joined those names as former coaches and administrators here who have been so honored with their name going on one of our facilities. But there is an even greater honor, level of recognition here at Nebraska, one that only two coaches, Coach Devaney and Coach Osborne, have, and that is having a bronze cast in your honor, so in perpetuity people would understand what you accomplished and what you did when you're here. I will say this is not just about your volleyball legacy. For some of you may know that once he retired, he actually got a check in a rodeo for some cowboy skill that he has. So technically he is a professional cowboy. So we are honoring you not only as a volleyball coach, but as a professional cowboy tonight. Days like this come about because of the competitive greatness. 4 national championships, I think 3-time National Coach of the Year, 14 conference championships here. But the real reason that this is all happening, because there are other people who have done that. But what John has done that sets him apart, and when I say he's the best coach in the history of our country in this sport, there's 3 things that I want to shout him out for. Number 1 is his adaptability. When he came, he actually wrote letters through the Postal Service to recruits. He called them on a rotary phone. I think we had 3 channels on the television. I think it was color, not black and white, right? It hasn't been that long. But when he left as a TikTok celebrity. But what he did was gave us all a lesson that you have to continue to evolve and adapt to changing times if you want to have success. And he did it, and he taught us all a very, very valuable lesson that none of us should forget. And legacy, legacies are made because you empower the success of others. John paid the bills, bought a house, bought a horse because of the wins and losses. But he built a legacy because of not that, but because of the hundreds of women who've played for him, who at the end of the day have gone out and had great success in their lives because of the lessons they got from John playing inside of his program. That is the legacy of a great coach. And that is what separates you maybe from any of the others. Shouldn't be lost on any of us that our volleyball program is being led by 3 of those women, which says maybe as much as anything about what you've done for this university. And finally, 92,003. The single greatest women's event, probably not just in the history of certainly Nebraska, but of our country and maybe worldwide. Your role as a promoter and a marketer of the sport, which is bigger than that. It's a promoter and marketer of women's athletics. Women's athletics in this country is different today than it was when you started because of the legacy you leave behind in all of those ways above and beyond the wins. So, John, on behalf of everybody in the athletic department and certainly everybody here, I just want to say thank you. I was proud to share just a little bit of time. I hope you didn't leave because I came as the athletic director, but proud to share the time I got to share with you, and we're all very, very proud of you. Thanks, John. Now, we have a couple of other speakers before John, and first I would like to introduce the president of the University of Nebraska, Dr. Jeff Gold.
Well, thanks, Troy, and thank all of you for being here. It's a tough thing when I have to follow Troy because he says it all and says it so well that there's probably very little that I could add. But I would like to specifically, of course, congratulate John for 25 wonderful years here and a lifelong career dedicated to bringing out the best in other people in the broadest possible sense. I want to thank and congratulate our team. You are the best of the best. You're so deserving of all of the accolades, and I look forward not just to this season, but to many, many more to come. I also want to thank the fans that have made this possible. It takes a village in many different ways, and all of us who are lived in Nebraska, and I'm now in my 12th year as a proud Nebraskan by choice, I know that the hardest ticket to get anywhere in this 100-mile region or more is to see our team play. And whether it's in CHI Arena, whether it's in PBA, whether it's in here, or whether it's in Memorial Stadium, it's truly remarkable. When I was asked by Troy if I'd say a few words this afternoon, it didn't take me but a heartbeat to, of course, answer yes. And that is because this is a very, very special event for our community, for the university, for Husker Athletics, for women's sports. But I think it sends a broader message than that, because when the wrap comes off that statue and young women for decades and decades will walk across this plaza to their seat in the arena, they're going to ask, who is this guy, John Cook? And they're going to look at the numbers and they're going to look at the dates, and not all of them are going to understand what that means. But I will tell you that their grandparents and their parents will tell them that John Cook is an amazing human being who spent a quarter of a century here bringing out the best in other people, taking individuals, young women from across the country and around the world with all different skills and talents, and bringing them together and to build incredible teams, championship teams, but also to build future leaders for our community at a time that they're desperately needed. And I will tell you that with all of the stress and turmoil that's going on across higher education in our country, not just recently, but has been going on for a long time, for all of the back and forth about NIL and revenue sharing and all the other things that fill the headlines of our newspapers and evening news, it is really the core values of Husker Athletics and the values that John brings to the table and has brought for a quarter century here that really makes a difference. Character matters. Culture matters. And he epitomizes that as well as anybody that I have ever known in my career. And let me tell you, while you may have started in color TV, I started when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, so it was a lot longer than that. So again, on behalf of the entire university, on behalf of the University of Nebraska Board of Regents, on behalf of our governor, on behalf of the day that you and I spent in front of the legislature, if you may remember, to celebrate you, I congratulate you on a well-deserved honor, and I look forward to telling the story as I walk across this plaza with guests and friends and family members about the great John Cook. And one of the most important things, frankly, as I said, he has done is to bring out the best in other people, to bring out the best in his players, in his assistant coaches, in his colleagues, to set an example for not just the other sports, but for the chancellors, for the deans, for all that have watched and emulated the excellence, what I would call the extraordinary culture that you've created. And there is none better than our new coach. And Dani, it has been such an incredible pleasure to get to know you, to get to know your family, and to extend the warmest possible welcome for you back to Nebraska and to the podium today. Let's hear it for our coach.
All right, well, I'm very honored to be here speaking about, my mentor, my friend, and when the conversation started about me becoming the next coach here, John said, I think they're gonna put a statue, I don't know, but I'm not gonna coach if there's a statue out front of the gym. So thank you, Troy, for making this happen, to really push along the process so I could be standing up here. But I do think everybody sitting here knows what John's done as far as wins, losses in the community for the university, but it's really amazing what he's done for our sport. And another story I remember, when I was an assistant coach, we were having a team meeting, probably discussing a few things, and it was when Lauren was playing. And she told the team, you guys have no idea how much my dad loves you and how much time he spends here. And I will never forget that as an assistant at the time and now a head coach, because to be a great coach, to give to our sport, you have to be incredibly selfless. And again, this wouldn't be here without the amazing quality of selflessness that John has. There's a few things that he's done for our sport that maybe some of you don't know. Number one, incredible that any coach around the country, maybe there's a few head coaches he wouldn't let in our gym, but if somebody called from another school, hey, can I spend a week in the gym? He would welcome them. And then not only would he let them interact with the assistants, talk with the team, he would grill them and make them better. At our team camps, he was always huge on coaches' roundtables. And we have to spend extra time with these high school coaches. It's really important to me to make and teach these high school coaches around the state and around, the local states. So it's no surprise that high school volleyball is amazing here in the state of Nebraska. It's no secret that John is a great speaker and doesn't turn down too many speaking engagements. And I've had friends from all different professions, realtors, business leaders, other coaches that have always said, man, have you heard John's speech? I was like, yeah, a few times, but they always loved it and said it was amazing. John was never shy to be on an AVCA committee. That's our coaches association. And even the rules committee most recently, which she might have complained to me, on the phone a few times, this is a dumb committee, but always was willing to give his time. He was a great bridge between the men's and women's games, not only hiring coaches from men's teams, but challenging himself to bring new techniques and just new philosophies from the men's game into the women's game. He was a huge advocate for beach. We still benefit from having beach volleyball today. He was one of the first coaches to push for TV coverage. And when I was at Louisville, I think 4 years ago, there was like 300,000 people watched the first regular season game, and it was a huge deal. It's like the most ever have watched a regular season volleyball game. And I think last week or a couple weeks ago, we had 1.3 million people watching our match. And that's a huge props to John, and again, pushing for TV coverage and always pushing the envelope. The amazing Terraflex floor. Again, as a fan, you might not realize how important that is, but John, we were the first ones to have it, and John challenged every school to get it. It's the best floor for volleyball. It's great for our athletes, and most importantly, it helps prepare them to be pros and to have longevity in our sport. John was one of the first to go overseas with a team, particularly to China. And I know there's been a lot of documentaries on that, but on top of just going overseas, Nebraska brought the media to promote it. They brought TV cameras so we could show everybody that volleyball could go on foreign trips and how beneficial it was, not only for the sport, but for the athletes. And I know Troy already mentioned it, but he was always open to media and even social media, which might not have been the most comfortable thing for John, but yes, he left a TikTok star. And I think one of the most important things that John has done for our sport is just create a lineage of assistant coaches, club coaches, high school coaches, and people that are passionate about staying in the sport of volleyball. There's no other program in the country, not even close, that has as many ties into the volleyball world, from Division I all the way down to club, and that are continuing to push the sport forward. And it's pretty amazing. Like, what I've learned from him is, again, to continue to make our sport better and bigger, and to dream big and to not give up. So I really appreciate John leading the way for that and empowering us to continue to lead the way. But thank you, John, for everything that you've done. And it's hard for me to introduce without getting emotional, but when I introduced John to the stage, not only an amazing coach, an amazing mentor, but a great friend and somebody who's always there to pick up the call when you need him.
Well, thank you. This is pretty overwhelming to have a statue up here. But I'm looking around the crowd, and I see pretty much everybody here had something to do with this, whether you were part of Nebraska Volleyball supporting us. And like Troy said, it's a team effort. And so you guys should all feel proud of this and what this really stands for and means, because it's pretty significant. And again, it's overwhelming. Huskers, I'm fired up you're here. Appreciate it. Thank you. We can do a TikTok after this if you guys want. Team TikTok, what do you think? So love watching you guys play. And Dani, like you said, Penn State finally got a Terraflex. So the Huskers won't be able to wear the leggings now on the wood floor. So I was trying to think of what could I talk about today, and I just want to reflect a little bit about some things over the course of my career here that happened. Some of them you may not know about, some you may know about. And the first thing is, I was thinking, if my parents were still alive, I would sit down with them and say, hey, Mom and Dad, Nebraska's going to build me a statue. What do you think about that? Pretty cool. Both my parents were in high school when I was born. We lived in Chula Vista, California, on the Mexican border in California. Volleyball was never a thing for us, didn't know anything about it, but I wanted to be a football coach, and I started off coaching football. And as this all was happening, I met Wendy, who actually was playing volleyball at San Diego State. Title IX, it was just first getting going. So I kind of got introduced to volleyball there. And then my first full-time teaching job, they said, you're going to coach girls volleyball and girls basketball. I said, great, I don't know the rules. And they said, well, get a book and figure it out. So that's kind of how I got into volleyball. So this wasn't like I grew up wanting to be a volleyball coach. And then the next thing that happened, I met Coach Pettit out in San Diego. He was playing golf. I picked his brain. I asked him a million questions because I was a young coach trying to learn. And next thing I know, a couple months later, he calls me up and says, hey, you want to be assistant coach here? This is 1988. I talked to Wendy, and we said, sure, let's go. And we drove out on August 5th, 1988, in a pickup truck and a U-Haul trailer, pulled into Ogallala. It was 105 degrees, a south wind was blowing. If you haven't been to Ogallala with a south wind, you need to try it sometime. There's a feedlot there, and there's smell. And anyway, we were starting to question a little bit about where the heck are we going? And then in 1998, we had one of the greatest matches I've ever coached in. I was coaching at Wisconsin. We're playing Nebraska, regional final. If we win, we get to go play the Final Four in Wisconsin. It was in Madison. And we lose a heartbreaker to Nebraska here, 15-12. I think I lost part of my hearing in that match. It was in the Coliseum. And afterward, Pettit and I and Wendy and his wife Ann go out to just hang out at the Cornhusker. And he says, hey, I'm going to retire. I want you to come back. I go, oh, yeah, right. I've heard you say that forever. And Ann turns to me and says, no, this is for real. So then I got a chance to meet Bill Byrne. And I've gone through a lot of ADs here. And I'll never forget this. Bill Byrne, this is how long our interview lasted. I sat down. He said, John, we want you to be the coach here to take over for Pettit. And he says, here's how I work. You can ask me anything, and I'll never say no. Now, we may not be able to do it, but I'm never going to say no. And that sounded really refreshing because at that time, we were fighting for everything in women's sports. And this is something our players over here, they think it's always been like this. And I can remember our first years in the Coliseum. We had no locker room. It was bussing everywhere. It was a different world. And so we had to fight. And when he said that, I said, this is where I want to be. And then in 2000, there used to be a club here called the Beef Club. Huskers, remember, I was a history teacher, so we're doing a little history today. And I went to there and spoke, and this guy says, and we're getting ready to take the team to China. And this guy raises his hand. He says, who's paying for that trip? And I said, well, I'm not sure. I think, athletic department, whatever. He goes, we're paying for it. I walked out. I said to myself, we're going to start a sellout streak, and we're someday going to be a revenue-producing sport. Because I didn't want to ever have to hear that again, that we have to rely on the football beef club to do anything like that. And we started the sellout streak in 2001. We've sold out every match since then. And that's historic for any program in this country. But it all started from that. And again, thank you to the fans and the support we've had here. And it was, I never did see that guy again, but I've told that story a lot of times, so hopefully he heard it. And something else. In 2005, my daughter was playing for Pius High School. She was a freshman there, and they had a priest that would go with them to all the matches, Father Courtney. And one day I went to one of Lauren's matches, and he came up to me and he gave me this rosary. And he said, "You need to coach with this. This has been in my pocket for every match ever since 2005. And just little things like that, and what helped with that, Coach Krzyzewski also had a rosary, I found out, in his whole coaching career. Sometimes we need something to stand on, something a little extra, and I appreciate the people that think and offer something like that. And then in 2006, we had this great team coming back. That's when Dani went to libero, and the National Player of the Year, Christina Hoteling, hurt her shoulder, was out. So we were down to 2 outside hitters left besides Jordan Larson, and it was Dani Mancuso. And we're getting ready to play. We get to the Final Four. We beat UCLA in the semifinals. We're getting ready to play Stanford, who had an unbelievable team in the finals, and I'm thinking, there's no way we're going to win this match. That's how coaches think sometimes. And at 2:11 in the morning, Dani texts me and says, "Coach, dream big, dream like a champion tonight." And that has been the theme ever since then, to dream big. And she started that. She actually sent me a beautiful text today. She couldn't be here. Is one of her about 18 kids that she had to go to the doctor or something. She has a huge family. She married Roy Halou, a running back here. And then in 2012, it's announced that the Pinnacle Bank Arena is going to be built. And I get a call from the reporters, "Hey, are you guys going to go into Devaney?" And my comment was, if it's not, why would we go to Devaney if it's not good enough for basketball? Why is it good enough for volleyball? I get a call about 20 minutes later. Coach Osborne's secretary, he was the athletic director at the time, he says, "Get over here." So I walk in and she goes, "His veins are popping out. I've never seen him so mad." And he had been working with the regents to get Devaney ready for us to move. And again, this is a true story. And I said, "Coach, sorry." He goes, "You're going to you just blew the whole thing." I mean, he was really mad. And he said, "Well, what do we have to do to get you to move in there?" I said, "Coach, there's 7 things." We sat down on a piece of paper on his desk and wrote down the 7 things. Number 1 was women's bathrooms. So you're welcome. Because in the Coliseum, there was one women's bathroom. And I remember seeing the lines in between games 2 and 3 all the time. And that was number 1 on the list, more women's bathrooms. So moving to Devaney was epic. 9,000 selling out. And I think Troy is going to increase the capacity because there's such a demand for tickets. 2015, real simple. We beat Texas 3-0 for the national championship. Doesn't get much better than that. In 2017, the trip. We're playing Penn State in the Final Four. They have match point. We hit a ball over. The setter's running in to set it. They win that point. They win and get to go to the national championship match. The setter trips over the outside hitter coming across. Boom, both people go down. The ball drops. We somehow come back, win that match in 5. I think it was 15-13 in the 5th. And the highlight of that was Lindsay, my coaches, Pat Loxton, who was our senior women's administrator at the time. Chris, you're here, so this is putting pressure on you. We all, in Kansas City, it was a beautiful night. We're on top of this plaza hotel, a big rooftop thing, and we're all smoking cigars. It was unbelievable. Pat actually texted me today and reminded me of that. So those are the little things that make all this worth it. And when you work so hard, and as like I say, we coach 364 days a year for that one opportunity to play for a national championship. And of course, the stadium match. Not only was that an epic event, it's in Nebraska, but it really has set women's sports a significant jump into the future here and how important it is. TV ratings are killing it, as Dani said. Attendance is way up everywhere. Combine that with Caitlin Clark, it's elevated women's sports, and That was a significant moment in history, and I hope all of you guys were there and got to be a part of that. So Troy, I want to thank you again for this, and Dani was right. He told me we're going to build this thing this year no matter what, and I said, yeah, I'm not coaching if we're doing it. It's enough pressure coaching here without having a statue out here. But, and I really want to thank the two people that were here the longest with me working here, Jolene, our trainer, Jolene, I'm not 23 years or something, and Lindsay, who played, coached, director of ops, and you guys have been a big part of that journey. So they deserve a lot of credit. And then none of this happens without my wife, Wendy. None of it. She raised our kids. She put up with my crap all the time. She had to go through the highs and lows of coaching. And anyway, Wendy, thank you for your support. And being my team. And George and Ladine, thank you. I've known George for a long time. Going through this process was really cool on how they do this. These artists are amazing what they do. And to see the process go through and how they do it, it's truly remarkable. If you ever get a chance to go to a studio, do it. Having said that, again, thank you everybody for being here. It's hard to wrap my head around all this, but again, this is all about Nebraska volleyball and what it's done in this country and how we've set the standard for everybody else in this country. So thank you very much for being here. Go Big Red. There's no place like Nebraska.
Well, Wendy, if you would come up alongside John, I think it's time to see what this statue looks like. Yeah, you just kind of flank it. You tell me when you're about ready and we'll have a countdown.
They're yours. They're lead ropes.
All those are lead ropes.
You never have enough lead ropes, you know.
Well, I think on the count of three, we're ready to lift this up. So if everybody will do the count for us. 1, 2, 3. So we'd like to invite everybody to come up, take some pictures with both Johns, and hang around. We have a reception up in the arena here shortly. But thanks all for coming to share this time with John and Wendy. That was awesome. You were awesome.
I'll be the first one.
Yeah.
In America too, she's a good girl. She's crazy about Elvis, loves horses, and her boyfriend too.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is Danielle Schenk in the 1011 Now streaming studio with a quick recap of what we've been streaming since about 5:30. The University of Nebraska unveiled a life-size bronze statue of John Cook. As you can see, team is taking pictures around it along with the legend John Cook, honoring one of the Husker Athletics' most iconic figures. The statue was created by Nebraska native George Lundeen and valued at $400,000 as part of a larger donor-funded project approved by the Board of Regents. Updates also include adding John Cook Arena to the Bob Devaney Sports Center, new interior signage, and updated wayfindings. Speakers at the event included University of Nebraska System Dr. Jeffrey Gold, Athletic Director Troy Dannen, Nebraska Volleyball Head Coach Dani Busboom Kelly, and of course, Coach Cook himself. Cook did retire in January, shocking most of the volleyball world and of course Nebraska after 25 seasons with the Huskers and 32 overall as a college head coach, but he has not left the sport. Last month, he became co-owner and general manager of the Omaha Supernovas, helping prepare the team for the 2026 season. They will have a ceremony here soon, so our reporter is going to shut down. I will get myself on screen here. So for more Husker coverage, the full stream, if you only were able to catch the end, we will have that up on our website. You can follow us on all our social platforms and make sure to download our app on Roku. From our newsroom to wherever you are, we'll see you on the next stream.